Right. Onegaishimasu.
Right.
All right. Good. We'll just loosen up a little bit. Just find shoulder width. And roll a little bit to the back. And go a little bit to the side. So rotation. Okay, with an open and close. Just mix in the directions, moving freely. Right, and take it into a nice deep breath in, reaching right up, and hinging down the upper. Okay, one last time. Just go straight into the shoulders. Roll the rest a little bit. Change forwards. Ooh, what's that? Nice big circles. Wait. And change. Side. Change. Yeah, and just take it to a rotation with the elbows. Yeah, really chin up and over. Both sides. Circle the hips up a little bit. And the other way. Into the knees. And the other way. Ankles. Change in direction. And change direction. What you do is just walk out. It's just a walk out with the hands, so with the legs shoulder width, just walking out and just walking back. We'll do a few variations. This is a kind of nice one. Walk out, come up to a tight plank. So if you can keep the legs a little bit straight. And, so if you feel any kind of strain, a lot of strain on the knee, yes. Bend the knee a little bit. out. Stand up in between. And the next one, walk out with the hands and then walk the feet to the hands. So you walk out, and then you walk the feet to the hands. And then stand up. And then this one, we have to change direction. Walk out, walk the feet to the hands. About 4 kind of steps, 4 steps out. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you feel any, or if you feel a lot of strain in the legs, into the lip of a bending knee. Bent knee. Nice whole body. Quite gentle. Good. And then you're going to do 1 forwards, 1 back. So you walk out, walk the feet to the hands, and then walk the feet back. And then walk the hands to the feet. So you go 1 out with the hands together with the legs, and then walk the legs back, and walk the hands back. And you can also stand up in between if you want. Walk out, legs come forward, stand up, walk back, hands back, stand up. Super, good. And then the next one, just to target the legs a little bit more, You're going to go into a lunge one way and just reach out with the opposite hand, just floating the knee off the ground in this case. So touch, just floating the knee off, keep the body nice and long, reaching across the body and down, coming back up, and you're just stepping into this one. A couple of variations of this one. Lunge down, reach. Lunge down, reach. That's good. And then very similar, you just go to the diagonals in this case. So you go out to the diagonal, touch down, come back, at the diagonal, and down, touch back. So just getting that foot as well engaged in the movement. So just track that direction, come back, track to the direction, come back, track to the new direction, and come back. Good. And then we just take it to the side. So in this case, leg straight, knee bends as you go out. And again, just reaching across. Don't worry too much about reaching the ground. That kind of activation in the upper body as well. Trying to keep, in this case, the feet parallel, toes parallel forwards. So. So the last one's the cross one going back. This is really like a capoeira kind of movement, but again, just do it with a reach. The leg goes back behind and then come down. Just be very careful with this one, especially the front knee. Don't take it as low as if you feel any kind of pain at all in the ankle. Don't go so far into it. In that case, you can just come down, just let the arms cross. I might, and then just, in this case, if you feel comfortable with it, with the hip, that range of motion, you can also reach into the ground with it. And like a kind of squat to the back. So contact squat, contact lunge to the back. And then just to get them a little bit more, you're going to go into a shoulder width. Just come down into the squat and just using the hands much as you need to. You can take the ankles, try and get the hips just a little bit lower than the knees, and just work in this position a little bit. If it feels a little bit uncomfortable in this low position, go a little bit wider with the feet. Just find a position that's comfortable-ish, and just rock the weight a little bit through it. Sit into it a little bit. If it's very uncomfortable, just come up a little bit higher. So explore a little bit of a higher position where the hips are just above the knees, sometimes below the knees. And just a nice variation of this, good for the shoulders as well. If you go into like a prayer position with the hands, put a little bit of pressure out with the arms, but also feel that you can also squeeze a little bit in and just work the shoulders as well. You can also do this in a position like this with the fists in the belly and kind of work this angle. A nice one to start is just in a kind of prayer position. Just think about widening, opening the shoulders as well. Another position you can work with in this is just on the ankles, the hands, and again, just playing with rolling, opening the shoulders a little bit. So again, the legs get a little bit uncomfortable at the point, just come a little bit higher with it. Great. Good, and then last one, placing the hands down, walk the feet out wider, take most of the bend out of the leg, and again, just sit into this position a little bit here. First one's just reach back with the hands. So again, think about the shoulders, the spine. Just going to lengthen them open, the front of the shoulders as much as you can. Think about really pressing the hands into the ground, like you're going to kind of take all the weight into the hands and lift off the feet. With that lengthened arm position. Take a couple of deep breaths. Again, shift the weight a little bit from side to side, front to back. And then walking the hands out to the front, keeping the hips back. And now think about splitting the hips and the hands away, active in the hand. And again, just play with a slightly sway of the body, going from shoulder to shoulder, side of the body. Splitting back. And then nice and slow, coming back up, feet, hands level with the chest. And just start to walk the feet back. Walk them back together. And very last one, take it into a forward fold, just releasing down. Again, find a comfortable position, but allow yourself to move in the position as well. And nice and slowly come back to standing. Release back up. Good. And then just release everything out. Shoulder width, hip width with the feet. And just releasing the arms down. Keep it going. And then just a little bit of a variation on this one. Think about like a kind of pressure down in the hands. So rather than just kind of swinging the arms down, It's a little bit like a pressure down now. The trick with this one is not to kind of collapse the structure down as you do it. So if you think about pressing weight down and kind of lengthening up through the spine, so use the kind of upswing. In this case, don't go so high up, but come up at just about the level of the eyes, the shoulders, and then think about again kind of pressure down in the hands. Again, if I kind of go to the hands to do it, the body's going to go into this position. Think about setting into the back of the body, that kind of pressure down, and you can kind of create length through the torso as well as you do it. Think about the breath as you do as well. It's pretty easy to kind of try and hold the breath and do this. Really bad idea. So it's much better in this case to just breathe as you do it. You're probably going to find the kind of exhale out is going to be the easier one of the breath patterns to work with. So. Very nice. And then the same pattern, think about coming up. You're going to rotate over, and then we're going to a really familiar position, coming down into that kind of position here, like kind of handcuff. So come up with it, rotate them over, feel the elbows again, really connecting to the hips here. And again, avoiding trying to push with the hands, dropping down into it. But again, feel there's a kind of a little bit of a heavy weight dropping down. You can also imagine, it's not really quite how we work with it, but if you imagine like also a weight at the top of the hand and then down, but I much prefer a kind of weight hanging down, with the feeling of a weight hanging down. It's going to really go to the underside of the joint. So if you think about coming up, rotating them over, and then you're going to want to do that with a lengthened torso as I do it. You definitely don't want to be crunching down into it in this case. So, perfect. Good. And then before we get to the rotation work, just go into a step with it. So if you think about the feet together, think about really grounding into one leg. So I'm going to shift the weight to one leg. I'm going to really feel that I go to the inner side of the foot and the leg, and think about just stepping back into it. So do this slowly. Choose a foot, step back a few times into it. Don't worry too much about hand meet, but just think about picking a side with the foot. So we're kind of trained to go into hand meet, so you'll probably find the body goes there anyway. But just think about, again, kind of length through, choose a foot, and then keep that sense of weight down. And if you want, you can also kind of bring the arms up, which just makes it a bit fuller in terms of the movement. But the idea is just to kind of sit into the posture, explore a little bit with the width of the feet, the distance between the feet. You might find as you step back into it, the legs go a little bit wider than you would naturally go into it. So you might find the body goes into a little bit too wide a position. So just explore it. Just when you kind of step into a natural step, so sitting into it. And the key with all of this, if you choose a different side every so often, just feel that the weight's going distributed. So you're going into that leg and then you're coming back, and feel that the weight's really even in both the feet. A very simple exercise, but it's a nice one. Very good. And then start to bring the rotation into it. Don't worry so much about going like 180 degrees with it. So just think about picking a side, choosing the foot that you rotate into this way, and then think about just setting the weight into it. So the weight goes into it, take the body with it, and then just readjust the position. But again, don't worry too much about finding a full kind of shift of direction. Just in this case, just a study of that rotation, and again, what I need to do to compress through that leg to kind of balance through the rotation. So sink into it, find the weight on the underside of the joint, and then keep it as you go into that second step. Okay. I want to play. We're quite good at going to position and terrible coming out of position. Terrible coming out of position. It's just what we do. So sorry, but look at this. Like I go into position. It's pretty good. So just play with the coming back to position, which is like I go here, I go here, and then think about coming back into the position. The issue is you're coming back to neutral, but I go into neutral like way too early, which is like neutral. Boom. So think about like it's more of a gradual shift in as you go into it. Shift out of it. Now you're in neutral. So just play with it a little bit because it's a kind of it's just an interesting habit apart from anything else, but it's something that comes up a lot. We all do it. And then one last one with this, just think about creating an invitation with it. So you're going to step into it this one. So this is a little bit tricky in terms of the structure because you're stepping in, the rotation tends to take you away. So be careful with it, but think about stepping in with this. And then you're actually already starting to initiate the rotation. Then from this position, you're stepping straight in with that leg and then going into the rotation. Again, very easy to lose everything, all the structures that I've got before in this invitation. So think about inviting in with the arm, rotating it. So you're technically in terms of pattern work, like an 𝘭𝘪𝘠𝗠𝗠𝗠 in this case. But it's like I'm coming forward, I'm opening the invitation and then going into the rotation. Going forward, open the invitation. And now there's no real neutral position. I'm just going from form to form with that invitation in between. Easy to start to lose that feeling as I get some more activity. Okay, we'll do one more, which is the 𝘭𝘪𝘠𝗠𝗠𝗧 rotation where I really go with it. We never practice this footwork, so when we go to do it, everybody gets lost with it because it's a difficult rotation, and I'm doing it with all these kind of things going on. Someone's attacking me quite strong. So the movement in this case, we'll just study a little bit. It's not to go in and rotate the hip back this way. It's to actually go with the form. So you offer this way, you go into the rotation, you capture the center line, and then this hip travels through. So just the first basic pattern, because later you can take this into a rotation with it. But think about being in this position. The normal idea is to find the center line and then pivot around it. In this case, you take the center line and then you take it with you. So you, in this case, travel, just in this case, take a step back with it. It's a tricky rotation for the ankle and the foot and the knee, obviously, but think about going into here and then this foot is going to set up the direction as well. So just play with it. You're going into the rotation, capture the center line and just take a step. In this case, it's going to be like behind you. But the idea with this is to join the center of the movement and then really go with it. You're going into flow now with it. So this is the 𝘭𝘪𝘠𝗠𝗠𝗧 variation for this. But apart from anything else, it's just a nice rotation to play with. Just quite tricky. Let's see. Okay. So there's a really tricky aspect of this which there's just no way around, which is there's no real anchor in the movement. So when the first rotation what we do is like this, and I set up a very clear anchor in this foot, and then this leg very flexible, it can just move around it. In this case, you're doing everything in motion so that the footwork needs to be very, very pliable in the body. So, and there's no real anchor, because if I set up the anchor, it really screws the body up, and then you end up with like a twist against the body. So just play with this. You're like, think about being here. You've got this foot's going to be very free, and you just step out of this way. So it's a bit of it's just a stupid exercise in this case, but I'm like here, and then I just feel this foot's kind of free, and I just kind of turn around, just like you would like turn around naturally. So like someone put, just kind of turn. Now in this case, if I brace the structure of that leg, the body gets stuck as I rotate. So what I want to feel is that back hip's just free to go. So it's just that the first thing is just feel that the back hip is actually free to just open, opens, and you can create that rotation. Good. Okay, great. Good, good, good. Good. And then with that, think about, again, bringing the arm weight back into it. This leg's going to start to be very flexible, and I'm going to start to go with it. Now again, everything needs to go in one piece, because I can't just flex. I can't just mobilize the back foot and keep this foot down. And I can't also go in with this one. So I need to basically just set it up so that I can just rotate, feeling the way underneath it, and then take it with you. It's a tricky rotation, but it's something that needs to be kind of instantaneous. The body rotates and goes. That's it, that's it, that's it, that's it. Okay, now the last aspect of this is to go into rotation with it and maintain the side of the body, the same side of the body forward. So this is very easy to lose in terms of, but you go into the pattern, do it very slow. Think about stepping through it. Now this side takes over, and it stays in control of the rotation. So just take it as far in terms of a rotation, in terms of movement, where one, I can keep that leg basically forward, but everything needs to be kind of flexible in the feet. I see some people do, again, you can do this it's a nice as an exercise, kind of just walking around with it. I take it and just kind of walk with it. Nice to do as an exercise, and so that I know I'm kind of free in the direction of going. Not so good in terms of expressing weight of the body. So think about the second thing, apart from this hip being free and taking the direction, I also need to keep the weight in the structure low, because if I let it go higher up, you lose the weight, and you lose the connection with the person. So you go into the rotation and just take it as far around as you can, kind of maintain, again, the weight, maintain the side, maintain the feeling low. Right. Okay, super. Grab a bokken. We'll just look at a few rotation movements with the bokken as well. So. Okay, perfect. We'll take it straight into Zendo, working with the rotation with it. Again, the simplest rotation what you can really do with the bokken. Think about, and just that setup for the rotation. Now it's going back to a really solid anchor in the foot. Nice, clean, motion. You're just working with that feeling of the weight being underneath the joint system, the arm. And again, let's maintaining the length through the torso, through the upper body. Okay, we'll just open this up and start working with 𝘏𝑗𝑢𝑚𝑒n. Just the first few, just to set it up, just going into on the spot, and just working one nice clean movement with it. So think about the raise, feet together, drawing into the cut. Raise, feet together, and just studying that kind of compression of the footwork, particularly as you go into it. So this compression in the front foot, using it, switching, dropping back into the hip. So the main thing is just to feel that shift into the one leg, the front leg. Okay. And then just go into a little bit of stepping work. So just work with 2 or 4 cuts, depending on the space. Just cutting evenly. And again, just focusing on that transition now of the weight into the feet. And again, trying to really make it one motion. So the raise, dropping in the weight, raise, dropping in the weight, one thing. So one step, one cut. And you can have a rotation work if you like, go on both sides, going both ways. Just make sure to explore evenly on the feet. Good. And again, just before we go into full rotation work, just think about changing the angle a little bit with it. So I'm just going to work like kind of wedge. You can go a little bit forward with it, but the key in this case is just to start to play with the landing of the weight in the foot and the shifting of the hip. Oh, in that case, that was really terrible. So you're going to shift in, find the weight. Now, the tricky part of this again is re-establishing the weight in the movement, in the cut itself. Just take your time with it because it's very easy in this case to lose everything as you go into it. So take your time and you settle, re-establish the ground each time, and then go. But don't worry if you kind of wobble into it, into the cut. It happens, just resettle each time. But in this case, you don't want to go from like wobbling position to wobbling position. So give yourself time in the finish of the cut just to resettle, reground, rebalance. If you do lose balance, if you can just go straight into balance, it's fine. Just work from there. That's it. Go. Shh. That's good. Yeah, so the main thing that, apart from you really want to make this one movement in terms of the raise and the cut, really think about the hips and the tip of the sword really working together. So start to increase the range of rotation, but make sure one thing's not happening, which is that the tip is basically coming up and down, something like this. If I also do that, then the hip's also going to kind of track to that movement, or it's going to kind of do another thing and it's going to split the body off. So when you do this, think about this hip and the tip of the sword really working together. So if you ever feel you kind of lose that feeling, just go to one hand and just feel you lose a little bit of control with it. But I really want the feeling of the hip and the tip of the sword start to really work together. Now, I want precision with that in the case that I want to find the center line of the head and then really go into the cut. But start to explore now. Again, opening the rotation up a little bit. Again, don't worry about coming all the way around. But just starting to open out a little bit. But the key thing in this case again is the hip and that tip of to motivate the tip of the sword. It's going to be really like a circular path. That's going to really unlock the ability of the hip to just roll the sword around it. Okay. Super. So we won't look at the whole thing, the 𝗵𝗏, we'll look at a little bit of 𝗵𝗏𝑡𝑎𝑐𝑖, working with number 5. We won't do the whole thing, but apart from it's just a little bit complex, but we'll take some parts out of it which are kind of interesting. The main one is this very first movement in the attacking form, where I go into the attack this way and then switch the hip around. So this kind of switch of direction as you go in. So my intention is to go straight in this way and cut down with it. But as I do that, you're being attacked. So what you're looking to do is roll the hip around and go into a defense. So just a nice one to play with in terms of movement patterns. You go in, and then you go change. And so there's the initiation of the raise, and then there's a change of the hip into the block. So just play with it, because it's quite an interesting movement. It's the attacking section of it. So this is one of the oh shit moments in the 𝗵𝗏𝑡𝑎𝑐𝑖. It's an oh shit. It's like this. You go, I'm going in, and I go, oh shit. The person's not there anymore. But it's not. The main problem with this when it's still in practice, it becomes like choreography. So it becomes some. I know it is anyway, but it becomes something like this. Yes. Or even worse, it becomes something like this. And it becomes like we both just kind of work around each other. So one person in this case really needs to attack, and it's actually in this case it's you. So this is the attack coming in, and then it's just a kind of oh shit, it's this shit, switch direction. But the feeling should be like I'm really totally committed to that very first attack. So if you get caught with it, or you feel yourself doing that, it happens all the time. Think about just go into the cut. So just actually go for that cut. But the feeling is with the body that I really want to go straight into that cut. And then the work of that form is to go into it and change. So and then I need to adapt the movement into the block. But it's again, it's quite a tricky one. And it's quite tricky to do solo, but it's just this case. It's like whoa, no change, whoa, no change. Get this feeling is actually really useful later, especially for working with things like Kaishu Waza, Henko Waza. I want to go like, not possible, change. Not possible, change. That's it. That's it, yeah, keep going. Okay, that's it. Yeah, got it. Good. Yeah, there we go. So, Okay, good. Then well, that's interesting as well, but then the next interesting part from that is going into a second attack. So this is basically the whole thing of this is actually one attack. It's divided in movements in terms of when we train it, but think about one attack which shits, and then I find another opportunity for that attack. Okay, so it's like I don't really finish the attack until the end of the form now. So I go attack, change, settle, spring into the next attack. So I'm basically in that blocking form, this changing so that I can readjust the body, so I can find a second attack. But in this case, the original attack never happened, so it's just one attack basically. But it looks like two attacks. But it's actually, I go change, now run, and you go to. So again, it's just this feeling of changing, setting back into the structure, and then you're already in place. You can find the next attack. And the form that also doesn't work, but the intention is to finish it at that point. The attacker. Good. That's it. There's a really nice rhythm to it if you do it as a set. Yeah, okay, nice. Oh. Okay, we'll do the kind of second half of this, switched roles. Don't worry too much about this, but it's just to train some of the patterns which are interesting. So in this case, as the defendant side, I've controlled the center line, and the first thing I'm looking to do is again finish the form. In this case, I just go for the throw with the tip of the sword. So the very first motion in this case, again, it's a very direct motion. I've got control of the center line, and I just go straight for the throw with the sword. This is the part in the form where the swords kind of come up together and we go into a kind of dance around each other. But the actual intention of this part of it is to finish from here. I've got the center line straight into the throat. Yeah, we're quite close. I actually don't even need to go in so far, but it's the feeling like I'm just going to drive the tip straight in towards the throat. And that causes the person to respond. If they don't, oh, easy. Goes right to the throat for control. So that's just the first part. Don't worry about the last part we did. Just this. That's good. And because the person likes their throat, they protect themselves with the movement. So what they do in that case is raise the sword up to protect the throat. Now, as they do that, as I do this motion, the sword starts to raise. Again, my intention is to finish the form. So if the person stays where they're at, I'll take the sword, draw it down, and basically go into the back of the neck with the sword. So my intention in this part of the form is to go like in, the sword gets raised up, and then I'm going to step in with the back foot, take the sword, drop it down, and basically drop onto the neck this way, or do some other kind of variation with it, which would control the sword. But it's just the feeling this one that I'm free. Again, with a change of intention, I go here, and then I change it and go into a position like this. But the main thing in this case, just to feel you're free. I commit to this, it changes, and then I want to be able to adjust the body. We're actually working in the same kind of area, which is why in this form, it looks like we're kind of working around each other in terms of moving around each other, but we're always kind of vying for the center line in space. That's a very clear example of it. So I go for the throat, I shift it, control it. Yeah, good. Good. So that's the intention behind it, and it's nice to play with, and especially when you can play with the kumitachi, you can go, if there's an opportunity to grab, I'll grab it. But in this case, the person again is switched on in the form. They're not going to kind of hang out in this area because they know this is a dangerous area to kind of hang out in. So they move with it. So they're moving and they're looking to cut the back of the leg. Okay, so in this case, my movement changes. It goes from this to, rather than looking for the sword, it's another, oh shit, they're going for the knee. I need to adjust and wrap around to the movement. So it's just a nice kind of movement in terms of the body work. You're coming in with it, this raises, and then I'm going to change the whole body. And think about protecting the back side of the leg. So I go into this position. Okay, so you've got a spiral down. into a low block this way. And you want to again be nice and grounded, the arms in the structure, and you want to be a really strong block because this attacks quite fast. And again, it's coming for a very weak area of the body, the back of the knee. Very easy to get blown away with this movement. So it's going to spiral and really ground the body down with that. Am I?
Sorry, when you're over here,
Yeah.
and you go to go, this one goes over here. It doesn't go backwards. You go inside.
No, yeah, you spiral into the leg. So if you go into this, if you go into this, what I'm going to do is spiral into the hip this way.
Okay, outside. Thank you.
And then I'm going to adjust through and go into this way. It's
difficult to me when I see you upside down.
Yeah, it's like
and the mess in my brain. I know, yes. Oh. Okay. This is much more comfortable.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, again, it's quite an easy one, especially if we go to the very last movement in this case, which is to go up, go around, and then you're going to step back, respond with it, come back into a strike. Now, if I'm in a kind of cramped position in this case, something like this movement's a lot of movements kind of get uncramped. So I want to go into it with length, with the structure, and then basically use it to go into the strike. So you raise in, you coil around, you finish. Now it makes a bit more sense, just in terms of movement, to let the sword whip around with the hip and then go into it. In terms of the basic form that we do, it's actually the sword just goes straight up and down. So we're here, and then it's just this. But it makes a bit more sense, especially when you also go fluid with it, that the sword wants to follow the hip. But it's just a worthwhile exploring both options actually. What the benefit of going straight up and down is that it really starts to open up the body, and I work in really strong length and position. And the tendency, if I go with a circular pattern, it becomes very short, and I end up with a too much compressed body. So explore both, be able to do both. I prefer the second circular option, but actually that pattern of just going straight up and down is actually a useful one. And we are just. Yep. Good. So the idea with most of that stuff, and also the rotation work, is not just to rotate just for the sake of it, or just changing for the sake of it. It's changing because I basically have to. So, especially in the sword where it's like, and I go into rotation because I'm trying to save myself, and I'm trying to save the position and control the center line. So it's which is a little bit different. Sometimes you see number 5 done with like we just kind of rotate around each other, just for nothing, and it looks like Morris dancing. Not very martial, but you're looking in that form, especially for both of us to control the center line. So it's useful to know where those points are, and again where I make the changes for it. Anyway, we will stop right there. We will Good. Domo arigato.
Domo arigato.
Thank you very much. Very good.
Michael.